Brian Chadwick, Internal Audit.
Shirley Nelson, Chair, Budget Advisory Commission.
Lance Wilbur, OMB.
Patrick Flynn.
Suzanne LaFrance.
Dan Moore, Treasury.
Elder Green.
Dave Trainer.
Felix Rivera.
Amy DeRossi.
Pete Peterson. Forrest Dunbar.
John Middleton.
Aaron Crow.
Susie M. Fitry, Mayor Softman.
Mike Abbott.
Thank you. MOA financial status. Do you want to do the report? Thank you, Dan.
Okay, I'll start. With respect, Treasury monitors the revenues. So just at your Tuesday night meeting, you received from us the final version of the revenue status for year 2016. And we did put a caveat in there that there might be some additional year-end adjustments that the Controller Division and the auditor, external auditor do. But this was as close as we had to final numbers. And so that's what we've presented to you. We also, over the last couple months, have been providing updates to OMB, to Lance, so that he could factor that into his first quarter budget revision. So basically for us in Treasury, we sort of go on a pause for the next 2 to 3 months at the most, and then we will start bringing the reports back to you for 2017 so that we have enough data points with which to project how we think 2017 will end up. So right now we're only into early, or I guess mid-April, but typically this is the lowest activity time of year for the city, and so the amount of activity and the revenues that have come in don't give us enough information to make good projections at this time. So by May and early June, we will start that monthly cycle of projecting and revising each month. And so that's about all I have to report. The numbers, there's no new information on the actual numbers for 2016 and 2017. We provided OMB for them to work with. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Any questions from anyone?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Flynn.
Yeah. Thank you. I had actually forgotten about the pause. But it occurs to me, for those who will still be here next week, one data point that might be useful that you could probably obtain if you offer a degree of confidentiality, and it may require a code change just to make sure that we're allowed to maintain that level of confidentiality given we're a public body, is getting bed tax projections from some of the larger hotel chains. They have the reservations. I know they report corporately.
Right.
If they'd be willing to share that on a confidential basis, just to help the accuracy of your numbers, might be a useful thing.
Yeah, and that is a really good suggestion. We did a couple years ago. We actually changed code to require the larger hotels, say it's the top 20, to not just give us numbers on a quarterly basis, but actually on a monthly basis. There still is a little bit of a lag time, but it's a lot less than it used to be. So we're getting some good actual data every month from the big ones. Yeah.
I'm thinking project.
Yeah. And you're thinking more projecting. Okay, yeah, okay, we'll look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Flynn. Okay, Mr. Wolf, update on 2017 budget.
Maybe before I get to 2017, if I could just tell folks, similar to Dan's report that you got on that you got last month, 2016. I mentioned this briefly to the Budget Advisory Commission. On your meeting on the 25th, you're going to see a year-end close for 2016. Similarly, we do have a couple little things we're waiting for the controller to clean up. But I'm happy to report that when we ended 2016 on our labor, we were at 100% spent. In our non-labor, we were at 96% spent. So totally, as we ended 2016, we were 98% spent, including our labor and our non-labor, for the end of 2016. Our departments did a very good job managing, even with the fact that you heard at the end of 2016 we had some challenges on our revenue side. So I'm very happy to report. There will be a couple things that you'll recognize in there when you see that report. Merrill Field received some grant funds that were identified as a capital expense. We moved them to operating, so it's going to look like their expenditures were higher, and really we just moved capital money to their operating budget. And similar to the port, with the settlement money coming in, those revenues were not part of the original budget, so you'll see that the port looks like they had more revenues, but really it was a reflection of those settlements. So I just want to bring that to your attention. If you I know many of you read that report with care, so I just wanted you to highlight those things. And so, anyway, look forward to that as an informational report. That will be our year-end quarterly, year-end report for 2016. And if you have any questions when you receive it, just please let me know.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up with that.
Thank you very much.
So for 2017, I wanted to present the Budget and Finance Committee. We had a work session last week. I've reached out to Barbara and Rose to see if we could get another one, more detailed work session scheduled for 1Q with this body and the new Assembly members before they take action on the 25th. Maybe just to highlight what we've got prepared, we'll be looking for any adjustments that the Assembly might want to make. Any comments or questions, please work those through my office or the City Manager's office, and we'll respond as appropriate. If you have any questions, let us know. But maybe to highlight the revenue side, we have very little changes or modifications in our revenue projections for 1Q. On the expense side, we are making adjustments for the bonds that were passed. We also have some medical cost contributions that we had to increase. We have some litigation that we're making adjustments for, primarily as it relates to Eklutna. And then we have a couple one-time things in there. Again, we'll go line by line through each of these in a more detailed work session. So take a look at the AR that was introduced. It was AR 2017-139. That also has the AM support. That has line-by-line details. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And there's also 2 ordinances that were introduced to set the mill levy for the district and general government. Again, if you have any questions on those. And then the last one, we have an ordinance in there to make adjustments for the utilities. Since the MUSA and NISA calculations were adjusted, we actually have to modify theirs as well. If members did not receive a copy of the presentation we gave last week, I'd be happy to send that to you. I have yet to send an electronic version to Rose, but I'll do that as soon as we're done today. And again, maybe to Assemblymember Rivera, Assemblymember LaFrance, if you have any questions, and hopefully we can get a chance to maybe do a budget briefing for you prior to the work session as your calendar might permit. So I'll leave that up to the clerk to coordinate with you at a time that's best for you and make ourselves available. You have a lot to learn, and we want to make sure that you're briefed as well as you possibly can. So obviously I have a lot of resources with the existing Assembly members, so reach out to them as well. And really, I just wanted to give this opportunity. If you had any initial questions, right now, please let me know, and, either on the revenue or the expense side, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. Before I go to you, Mr. Clinton, let me just say this. The clerk's office has put together an orientation briefing, and I think part of it is a presentation on the budget from OMB. I believe that's the case. Am I correct?
It hasn't been finalized at this point, but there will be OMB participation on Friday.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Flint?
Yeah, just something, Madam Chair, I know you and I are both concerned about was the deletion of holiday service by People Mover.
Right.
And I was spectacularly unsuccessful in getting that restored in the 2017 budget process. But if given that we've already been through several of the holidays that were on which service were eliminated, we could receive an estimate of what it would cost to restore them prior to the service change scheduled for October. That just, who knows? Maybe somebody remember it's a good idea to address at first quarter budget.
Thank you, Mr. Flint. Mr. Vogel?
I will reach out to Abul and see if we can make some accommodations, particularly as it relates to the new schedule we want to implement later this year.
Okay, thank you. Next item is first quarter, but you talked about that a little bit. Would you like to add anything else?
No, I'm just looking forward to working with the Assembly, and again, if you have questions,
Okay,
please let us
excellent.
know.
Okay, I don't see any questions, so we're now to report from the Budget Advisory Commission. Ms. Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At our April meeting, we were discussing 2 items that came up. ML&P is one of the topics that some of the commissioners are interested in, talking about the dividends and the RCA ruling. So Lance has reached out to the general manager, Mark Johnson, and he's going to be at our May meeting to just inform Budget Commission members on the ruling, and also on just explaining MUSA, so that new members especially have a better grasp on it. So it is a topic that we were interested in, and I think part of it too, and I reached out to you by email as far as a personal person, and I carried my bill with me. So twofold. One is that I would like to get it, because it does say right on here that the rate increase went up 37.3%. And when I tell that figure to someone and they say, no, that's not true, I'm hearing 19%, but I guess we would just like to see where it's at, because I do have it here and stuff on what is going on with it, because 39% increase is quite a bit. So twofold, why the big increase, and this last presentation with the dividends shows that ML&P had dividends available of, where was it, 7.5 million. So they continue to collect and have the dividends, and in the meantime, the rates keep going up. So twofold, why is the RCA still willing to hang on to it? Where is the ratio? And Mike, we just had a brief conversation. Can you just add to that if you don't mind?
Sure. So, as the Assembly's been briefed before, we are taking steps to get RCA permission to allow both AWU and ML&P to pay dividends to the municipality. Later this year, we'll be applying for that permission for the water side of AWU. And hopefully by the end of the year, if not then early next year, we'll be making the same application for ML&P. It does not appear that the sewer side of AWU will have the capital structure that the RCA requires in order for a dividend to be paid. So that's the current sort of general timeline of what we're hoping to accomplish in 2017 and maybe leaking into 2018.
Thank you, Mike. So that's kind of a discussion, and hopefully Mark will have some information for us as well. Also, it was brought up by members of the commission to be looking into privatizing EMT. So possibly in one of the future meetings, we would like to have some meetings with the fire department and just get their take on it, what it would take, what the hurdles may be, and so on, because that conversation has come up with the commission in the past. So it did come up again, just for a topic. Other than that, I think that was it. And Madam Chair, thank you very much for everything and for including the VAC as in this budget meeting.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, next agenda item, SAP Prosecuting Court, Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In honor of your last day here, I'm going to talk nothing but positive today.
Well, all right.
The project's complete, we're done, and no more bills to come. Is that what you would say, Alvin?
Almost.
Almost.
We did-
Because that would be a nice thing to do for a few
That would
weeks
be a
today.
good way to kick it off. I think I'm going to let you down a little bit.
You can never let it down.
We did begin SIT 2, System Integration Test 2, on Monday. We had our 6-week delay, as you've been briefed, as we've been going through while we were preparing data. Data did end up with a 99.97% accuracy rate, so we had a 0.03 of errors in that, which is pretty good. It did take a long time to be able to do that. We were able to, as I stated, begin testing on Tuesday. What does that entail? The finance and logistics subject matter experts, along with their consultants and their testers, are over at the Sunshine Building in the morning for 4 hours every day. And the human resource payroll group is in the 7th floor training room, same subject matter experts and so forth. And they're working through their different test scenarios and test scripts. We have currently a 5-week SIT 2 schedule with an additional 3 weeks to work on any break fixes that we need to do in this next particular cycle. So it's good that we finally got here and so forth. As usual, I always like to present to you what we look at on a daily basis, so you're getting the exact same analysis that we're looking for, as well as the Executive Steering Committee and ZIG and everybody here. But I'm not going to go through each individual slide, but needless to say, the first 4, 5, 6 slides there show how well we're doing on testing, and you will see that there's a planned line and there's a where we at line in the So far, in our first 3 to 4 days of this week, we're ahead of schedule, which is good. What that shows to me is that the additional 6 weeks that it took to get the data completed allowed all the testing scenarios and scripts to be ready to go when we hit the ground running, which we had a little bit of a short start when we started in January on SIP 1. So those sheets we look at on a daily basis to ensure the progress that we're making is in line with what our expectations are. As I mentioned, then the next slide in there talks about some of those additional reports. That's kind of important because as Zig has been presenting to you, some of those things we might have had to deal with at the end of the go-live process. Because we had that slight delay, we've been able to take care of that and get them actually interjected into the middle of our process. And that slide on the 32 reports kind of shows the status of those. So we have been making some very good progress on those. The next many slides actually show where we're finding problems. And that's what these system integration tests are for, is to find the problems in the system that we have right now and be able to fix them. And so on a daily basis, we look at where test scripts were run the prior day and how the defects are coming up. More importantly, it's not as how many defects we're getting, it's how fast we're fixing those defects and being able to get them back and retested again. So the deck that you have there is detailed, but it does give you a good idea of what we're looking at on a daily basis, what we're tracking. We want to make sure that you see exactly what we're seeing and that we're looking at it every day, ensuring that we're making progress as we move through different phases here. We will begin prepping for the parallel payroll testing, which is its own separate testing. It's a 9-week schedule, so we're actually in the process of getting those servers and all the people lined up to be able to do that. That will be starting here before we actually have the next meeting of the Budget Advisory Committee. So we are working on that as well right now as we go forward. I did want to answer Mr. Trainee had asked a question after we ended the last meeting with regards to the AMS contract that was coming to the end. It was either with this meeting or in Zig's meeting. We were able to reach agreement late on that Friday night and have a new contract in place on April 1st to begin that work moving forward. So that was a successful endeavor as well. But we are excited to be in the testing. I can tell you that the municipal employees are extremely excited because they're finally able to see a system with their own data in it. That has never occurred before in all the other iterations that we've gone through. So when they're currently over validating the test results, ensuring that what they expect to see on every one of their individual work processes is actually out there. And if it's not, then we're working through the process to fix it right now. But we actually are using the data of the municipality in this testing right now. Next week, we actually begin pulling the data for the third round of testing that will be coming up in 7 weeks from Monday. So the meeting staff is busy. They're working very hard and diligent through this, but there is a lot of excitement right now because of the progress that we're making, and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're actually working with the system with the data. And currently, it looks like we're ahead of where we plan to be, and we're actively fixing any breaks or defects that we find.
Thank you, Mr. Trainee.
So go live for SAP will be October 2017.
We're still evaluating that. Certainly the July 3rd date is off the table because of the delay that we had. We are looking at staffing. I'm actually having a meeting after this to look at consultant staffing and how we go into that process. It certainly is something that we're analyzing very carefully to ensure that any hours and dollars we spend beyond July 3rd, we're maximizing the effort for the dollars that we would be spending. There are some advantages of going on a quarter end from a tax reporting purposes and so forth that we'll be looking at as we look at the options available to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Trainee. Anything else, Mr. Chair?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Dumbo, you want to?
Thank you, Ellen. So I'm just on page 2. I'm a little bit, I was wondering if you could help me understand this a little bit better. The planned business scenario line, it's, what's that term? Shoot, will come to me in a moment. It never reaches 100, right? Or is it
This actually,
as a cost?
there's actually 90 test scenarios in this particular, so this is not a chart for to equal 100%. This is actually to show how many business scenarios we have, and we happen to have I think there's 89 in this particular axis that we're shooting for. And HCM, and just for the new members, FILO is finance and logistics, so that would be our finance department and the purchasing area. And then when it says HCM, that's our human capital management, so that would be your HR, ER/payroll type area. So the way that they have it is they have end-to-end business scenarios. As we talked about, the most important part of our testing is to take something from the very beginning and run that, whatever it happens to be, all the way to the end, because it interjects with all the other departments and all the other phases. So in this particular case, FILO has 89 of those end-to-end scenarios that they're doing. Within those scenarios are test cases or test scripts that actually they run. And on FILO's example, there's over 900 individual things that they're going to be running. So we have a way of showing how well we're doing on the end-to-ends, as well as how well we're doing on the individual ones that we're running for each of the particular areas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Any other questions? Okay, well, so we're out of time. Any other, somebody comment? All right, and there's no audience for any questions.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Wolf.
before you end, could I have a point of privilege just to thank a couple of people on this committee? Both you and Patrick I had worked with for a very long time in different capacities. I had worked with Patrick under AMATS when I was there, and it was, I think, a learning curve for both of us. But Patrick, I really genuinely appreciate your help. I mean, I know that you've given me when I was at AMATS, when I was at traffic, and when I was at transit. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And your role here, the questions that you ask, similar to other Assembly members, while I might not always agree, I do appreciate desperately think about what we're doing here at OMB. Ms. Gray Jackson, likewise, I've worked with you for a very long time. This job for me was a lot to take on. So your leadership and your guidance to me and to my OMB staff, very much appreciated. Words can't express it. So your guidance, your leadership, and your support, thank you very, very, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And so I have a few comments to make. One of the comments, well, the first one is, as everybody knows, this is a committee of the whole, okay? And Vice Chair Trainee and I made a committee of the whole for an obvious reason, because budget is one of the biggest things that the Assembly deals with. And it also, making this committee a committee of the whole, it's important that this committee meets every month, and it does, and it's on the schedule every month. And when you think about it, meeting every month, the agenda's pretty much the same. Our responsibility is to pay attention to the administration and how they handle the appropriations that we make. And every month they give us a report on the financial status. And it also eliminates the need for additional work sessions dealing with the budget, so that's really important. And then I established years ago a budget work plan, and it's been updated, and it's a really good plan. And Rose is our budget staff, and she is really doing a really great job on following that plan. And part of the plan is that we engage the Budget Advisory Commission, and that's why every single month at this meeting, there's a report from the Budget Advisory Commission chair, and it's working really well. So my suggestion is, whoever the new leadership is, please maintain this committee as a committee of the whole. Please, whoever you appoint as the next budget chair, make sure that they take a look and understand the budget work plan. And also, one other point, what Rose does at every budget committee meeting, she sends the chair notes, which is really helpful in the chair preparing the chair's report to the Assembly at the next meeting. So I just wanted to make those comments, and thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, meeting's adjourned.